Welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Real Fit Pros. It's your boy, Jonathan Loudermilk, your host with the most. And as always, I've got my co-pilot partner in crime, Mark, the Fitness Ninja Zalmanoff. And I know it's a lot of hands. We've got a special guest today.
Oh yeah. So another lovely day in Fit Pro land here. Real quick, if you're listening to this, please like, subscribe, share this on the gram, share this on the Facebook, share it with your friends so we can do what John always tries to get everybody to do, and that's go get what they're worth. Yeah. By the way, in case you didn't know and you were listening, my man Jonathan released his book last week. Room for Greatness, available on Amazon. It's like $9.99. So go spend $10, get my homie's book, learn from someone who's made all the mistakes so you don't have to make them anymore. And dude, I just want to say I'm fucking proud of you. You know, my book came out earlier this year. I know the process. It's not the most fun thing in the world. But damn, is it rewarding when it's done. So congrats to you, man.
I appreciate it. And I truly hope those of y'all grabbing the book that you really take it into heart, because you're going to find out a lot about me. I don't hold any punches. And once again, the book is designed to literally, if you take even one piece of thing away, if you go apply it, you're just one step closer to getting what you're worth. But this isn't a plug for my book. This is about our guest today.
Now we'll get to our guest. All right. So I'm going to give you a little background information on this young man here. He is one of Denver's top personal trainers with over 15 years of experience. So listen up if you are a new Fit Pro. He's worked with clients of all age ranges and backgrounds, completed 20,000 plus sessions throughout his career. You know, I really wish I would have tracked that from the beginning. I have zero idea how many sessions. He has a bachelor's in exercise science from Cornell College in Mount Vernon, Iowa, where he also competed for 4 years on the football and track and field teams. In addition to his bachelor's degree, he holds multiple national certifications for both personal training and nutrition. He is currently the owner of Custom Fit Colorado, which is a personal training and nutrition company based in Denver with 2 locations. It was founded in 2017 and serves clients throughout the Denver metro area through in-person services, as well as worldwide through remote services. And finally, he is also the head trainer for the app called 30 Day Fitness, so go look that up, in which he collaborated with a tech company based in Milan, Italy called Bending Spoons, and handled all of the exercise programming and design, which is real fucking cool, dude. The app debuted on the app and Android store in 2018 and has over 200 million downloads to date. That is impressive. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Williams.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Man, what a intro.
That was well done. You make me sound a lot better than I
am. By the way, if you're listening to this, I am available for your personal intros for a small fee.
Seriously, there you go. And I'm going to real quick also give you a shout out as well, John. Like I just mentioned before we started, I just ordered the book this morning and I'm pumped for you, man. I'm excited to dive in, and congrats on launching that thing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, Jason. So you know the drill. We always start this show off with a funny gym story, and you got 15 years of experience. So lay it on us, man. What you got?
Yeah, this was fun, guys. I mean, the wheels started turning and the memories started flowing through, and I have a good one. So I grew up in Iowa, and I took a position with Lifetime Fitness, which I think you guys have them down there obviously as well. So joined a big Lifetime Fitness out in Colorado, and you guys know how some of the big ones are, right? So massive facilities. I was walking into like the Disney World of fitness, right? And I was pumped up and I was gung ho and I was ready to rock. And I was there for probably 2 weeks. Had my first client, signed her up, was walking her down to the cafe. We were in the cafe, we were going through the supplement spiel, all that good stuff. Telling her how great this place is, how we're all family, how I got your back if you need anything. We walk out into the hallway. And I shit you not, I'm walking down the hallway and this guy comes walking down naked, drinking a smoothie. He's probably 70, 80 years old. And what had happened was he had locked himself out of his locker. And the way Lifetime works is you need a key to get into your locker. And he, for some reason, I don't know if he didn't know he didn't have clothes on or not, but he didn't seem to care. So I'm sitting there walking with this client I just signed up. this guy's coming at us head on with a smoothie in his hand, no clothes on. So needless to say, that was that was a first, and that was the last for something like that ever happening. But that caught me off guard a little bit.
So what'd you say?
I don't remember, honestly. All I do, it's one of those things where you kind of assess the situation, right? And real quickly, I think we kept walking, and I was like, well, it doesn't get much friendlier than that, right? So welcome to Lifetime. Let's have some fun. So, but it was, you can never prepare for that. You can never prepare for that. So normally, I mean, it happens. I mean, it happened a lot, right? People would lock themselves out, but normally people would at least have a towel on, or you try to flag somebody out in the hallway. You're not walking in the nude down to the front desk and in front of all the other members. So that was a fun one. That was a fun one.
I love that he had a smoothie.
Smoothie, man. Post workout importance there.
Well, when you pay those monthly dues, you do whatever the hell you want.
That's right, man. That guy, I don't think that guy was caring about too much in that moment. So that tells me that probably wasn't the first time he's done that.
Jason, if you go back, it was one of the very first episodes we did on this show. I have a naked Michael Irvin story from my days at Lifetime Fitness as well. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm a Cowboys fan, so I gotta go check that out.
Yeah, I'll find it for you and send it to you. It's fucking hilarious.
That's funny, man. You have to send that over.
All right, so let's. That's a great story, by the way, dude. So let's dive into this a little bit. You've been in this for 15 years, which it seems to be rare that we get people that are in this industry for really past about 4 or 5 years. It's like the NFL. It's like a short-lived career, and then you go do something else, right? So let's talk a little background here. How did you get into the realm of fitness, and what has really kept you in for this long?
Yeah, so I think I got in how probably a lot of people do, right? So sports were always part of my life, right? So I grew up playing sports from as young as like 4 or 5 years old, on travel teams. I grew up in a small town in Iowa, so played all the sports throughout high school. Ended up playing football and track in college. So kind of fell in, it was always a part of my life, right? So I, from a very early age, was able to realize just the impact it could have on me, just mentally, physically, confidence-wise, all that stuff, right? So I knew I wanted to do something in that world. Didn't know if it was going to be strength conditioning or athletic administration or whatever, and kind of actually just fell into personal training and got my first start. There was a local gym in my hometown where I knew the owner, and I was like, hey, do you mind if I start to work with some people in the gym? And that's kind of how it started. And that was back in 2006. And then I also did some stuff in the strength conditioning world around the same time. And then I realized just how, nothing wrong with that industry. I love strength conditioning, but it's definitely a long road. And there's a lot of stuff you don't see in that world. And I just realized that's not where I wanted to go, right? So ended up making the move, like I said, to Colorado after school. And that was my introduction to the first kind of big box, and got involved with Lifetime Fitness. Started with them as a trainer, and then just elevated up through, the ranks and into some management positions. And then from there, bounced around to a few different national brands. Spent some time with Equinox out on the West Coast. So my wife and I spent 5 years out in LA. So we, same thing in LA, did trained at some of their clubs, ran some of their clubs, and then eventually broke off on my own. And then have not looked back in that world.
I always love how when we get guys like you on here, and it's like, oh, I worked here and I worked here, and then I just went and did my own thing. And you kind of, glaze over like the decade of struggle that leads to that moment, right?
Yeah.
So you made the jump, like almost every good coach does at some point. We all go, okay, fuck this, I'm gonna go do this thing for me. What was the catalyst for that? Was there a tipping point? And then where did you begin with your own entity?
Okay. Yeah. And obviously, it's how much time you have, right? Because you can go through all the stuff, right, and go piece by piece on it. Like I said, try to give you the quick snapshot of it all. And like you said, there's a lot more that goes into that, right? So the catalyst for me was just realizing, I'd ran several clubs with several different companies, and I just realized, okay, what I always thought was kind of the top of where I wanted to go career-wise, that something just felt like it still wasn't there, right? And I felt like no matter how much work you were putting in or how many clients you were working with, it just didn't feel like it was adding up, right? So I like anybody does, right? You start to kind of reverse engineer, run the numbers, and realize, okay, I can do a lot more of this on my own and make a lot more money and probably have a lot more time, right? And for me, that was, we were in California at the time, and I had a great group of clientele out. We were right in LA, and that light bulb moment kind of went off, and I was like, man, you know what? I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid off, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna jump, and it was the best decision I ever made.
What were you fearful of when you did that?
I think for me, it was just the false security blanket that I thought came with working for somebody else, right? And I'm sure that's probably how a lot of people feel, right? So you feel like doing your own thing, right? All of a sudden it's all on you, which it is all on you, right? But you feel like you have that security, quote unquote, right, of working with someone else, where at the end of the day, that couldn't be more true or more untrue, that's not there, right? So I mean, there's obviously, in your head, you build that narrative up, right? And the minute you get on the other side of it, you're like, oh, this is a lot, not I hate to say easier, because it's not easier, but it's a lot easier of a move than I thought it was going to be from that aspect.
Mhm.
So when you opened up your first gym, is it where you are now?
Yep. So I started, I made the leap. I believe it was 2015 is when I made the leap, just to cut ties with all the gyms and go solo. And then my wife and I moved to Denver in 2017, and then I opened that's when I opened the first studio location. That was out here in Colorado. So when I was, the first 2 years of the business was all in home in California.
Got it. Man, California. Ooh.
Yeah.
Seems like a rough place to be right
Yeah.
now.
So
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I've got a question for you. So we're in the timeline of where you're in Colorado, you've got your new place. You and I connected. I thought it was a year ago. You're like, John, it's been like 2-3 years. So I'm like, damn, time has flown by. But when we first talked, you had your studio, you're rocking and rolling. You're obviously wanting to keep growing. But now here we are talking now, and we're kind of on the tail end of COVID. Not only have you grown online, but you actually have a second location. So I want to talk about that. What was that experience like, going through COVID and then to come out the other side winning?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, John, the thing that saved me with COVID was I went online in 2012. So I was fortunate that I was, at the time, I was moving away from Lifetime Fitness in Colorado, and I was moving with Equinox on the West Coast. And I had a lot of my clients at Lifetime, just ask, like, hey, can we work with you while you're out there? And again, that's when one of those other light bulbs came off. It's like, hey, I don't see why not, right? So it was 2012 when online was still not really a thing, right? I mean, so just real kind of old school Excel program, sending people out to people in Colorado, and I was able to retain a lot of those clients from afar. And that's when I realized, man, there's something here, So to answer your question, right? So fast forward now to COVID times, right? And I think what happened was when all that happened, everything started shutting down. I was in a place, fortunately, where I still had a lot of my business online already. And I was able just to hit that quick pivot to where I was able to retain 85-90% of the in-person stuff, because I had the systems established for the online. And that really allowed me just to hit that, like I said, that pivot, and not have to spend 1, 2, 3 months trying to figure out where I'm going to go with the doors closed.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, there's a powerful lesson in this. And number one, it's you listen to what the market wanted. And number two, you gave it to them. And we see so much resistance from coaches sometimes to change their business model, to go online, to do anything different than they're already doing, when they got people saying, hey, I want to work with you if you can do this for me. And I get it, everybody doesn't have to change their whole shit just to accommodate one person. But, when there's a demand there and you're willing to take imperfect action to move forward, that's where the magic happens. And Jason, I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I was training online before COVID ever hit. So when COVID hit, I just put all my people online. Like it was such an easy transition. And I want to ask you, because I felt that my clients felt so much better knowing that I was confident during that time, and that I knew what I was doing. And they, it was one thing in their life that could remain constant, and it wasn't chaotic. Totally. Did you see that same thing with your people?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think for me, it was just, it wasn't a freak out moment of, hey, how are we going to do this? It was like, okay, cool guys, I'm closing the doors. I'll see you next week. Here's the schedule. We're all aligned now, you know? And I think that in itself, and like you said, in a time where nobody knew what the hell was going on, right? We at least had that consistency of our 1, 2, 3 time a week appointment, whatever it was, right? And I think for a lot of people, and probably, I mean, honestly, probably just as equally for myself, you know, I mean, it was that level of consistency where I knew, okay, you know, I don't have my studio location anymore, but you know what, I have some similarity, some stuff that's still there that I know is going to be there on a week to week while we're trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. It was amazing to see the wide range from people like you and I who are like, here's what we're doing. Let's fucking go get it. And everybody's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
To, you know, John will tell you, I mean, we had a lot of coaches around us like, I don't know what to do. You know, do I have to do a Zoom call all day long?
Right.
And, yeah.
It's a little crazy.
Yeah.
So, well, speaking of that, well, why don't we share some of the magic of how to actually run those sessions? So, like a lot of coaches, when this first happened, they just assume that I'm going to just train people physically online, where they get on a Zoom call and they're like watching their form for 35, 45 minutes. I'm like, that's a terrible way to do that. So, if you guys want to kind of dive in, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think for me personally, I mean, I think it depends on the person, right? So there's a lot of people that you can give them some direction, you can give them some programming, and they're going to follow the lead. And you've been working with them for long enough to where you know where their strengths, where their weaknesses are, and you can follow the lead from there, right? But I also have some people where there's a high degree of difficulty with some of the stuff we're doing, or maybe there's some injury or there's some limitation stuff to where it is a little more kind of technique based, and I'm kind of treating it a little more as if they're in my studio, and maybe I'm having them play with the angles of the camera a little bit, or so I can make sure I'm seeing what I need to see to try to deliver that value that I know I need to for them. So for me, I think it wasn't like a one size fit all approach of, hey, here's where everybody's going with it. It was more so, okay, kind of have that roster of, okay, here's where I need to get a little more attention here, especially when it's people that have never done a Zoom call, right? Or have never been on a FaceTime, right? Because you have a lot of people who that concept for some people still to this day is still a foreign concept, right? Mm-hmm. So it was trying to make that as comfortable as possible. And if that meant me really kind of going through and holding the hand a little longer just to make sure they felt like, hey, this is something we can do, then I was going to do that, right? But there was also some people where it's, hey, here you go, turn you loose, and they ran with no problems.
So what would be your advice for a new coach that doesn't have that keen sense of where, like, you know, us three have been doing this for a while. We do a lot of things intuitively. What would be your advice for that new person that may not have that yet, that's getting into this for the first time?
I would think err on the side of doing too much, right? So err on the side of giving them more than what you think they may need, right? And then you're going to find out real quick if it's someone that doesn't need all that, right? Or you're going to find out if that's the right amount, you know? So I think if you're someone who's just trying to get this off the ground or trying to figure out what system do I use? Do I use Zoom? Do I use FaceTime? Do I use whatever, right? I mean, I think instead of killing yourself with the details of all that, right, just figure out who's in front of you, what their needs are, how they respond best to coaching, right? And then, you know, start from there. And I think, like I said, over deliver, right? I mean, that's a good point for anything, right? Always over deliver in any of those situations, right? But if you over deliver in the virtual aspect, right, it's going to come back twofold, right? You're going to at least know that you're giving them what they need, if not more, right? And if you need to adjust, you adjust.
Awesome, man. You know, that there's always something to be said for simplicity. You know, a big mentor of John and I always talks about taking complicated things and making them simple. And when we're talking about coaching, especially with, you know, human beings in front of us or virtually, like, we have to make it as simple as possible if we want compliance, because you are going to encounter those people that haven't used technology and still ask you to fax them something. Like, who the fuck has a fax machine? You know, like, those are the people that haven't been on a Zoom call. Let's be honest. You know, they still want you to fax them.
And they're out there, man. They're out there.
Do you have, what is your target demographic as far as coaching goes? And is it the same online and in person for you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a wide range, right? And I think that's something to where it always has been for me. I mean, with my background in sports the way it is, and I actually do a little coaching out here right now. So I'm involved with the track and field team out here. So I work with a lot of athletes, but I would say the meat and potato of what I work with in person is that 30 to 50-year-old kind of young professional or just professional person that, has a family, has a career, maybe they have their own business, very busy, but fitness is a part of their life, right? They want to take care of themselves, may or may not have the athletic background, may or may not know what they need to do or have done it before, but just want someone like myself to just eliminate that step for them, and make sure that they're doing a program that's going to keep them healthy, give them the energy they need to do their day to day. But most importantly, I think for me is give them something they can do for the long haul, right? So that's what I find is more of what my in person is, and it's very similar online, right? So online, I think I get a little more of the younger demographic online, a little more of that like 20-year-old that just wants more a little more likely to do it on their own, or maybe they're newer to the fitness world. And they want just a little more like the programming piece, and maybe they don't have all the demands getting thrown at them with life yet, but they just want kind of more of that structure and just kind of figure out how to piece it together. And I see a little bit more of that online, but I still get a lot of the same demographic online that I do in person.
Yeah, it's interesting now because we have a generation of people who really grew up with technology. Like we were kind of on the edge of it, but people that are 30 or so right now, like 20 to 30, I mean, they've grown up in front of screens and computers their whole life. So much of the things that we're trying to do online is way more intuitive to them. So it does kind of make sense. We're always going to attract like people, but it makes sense to have a little bit of a younger demographic online for some of us, just because they're so much more used to it. That's how they want to interact with the world.
Yeah.
It's because they don't know how to interact like a normal person.
Yeah, they ain't got no face-to-face people.
I gotta talk to people. Yes, you have to talk to people.
They do a chat.
Yeah. COVID's making that worse, right? We might have been turning the corner a little bit. Now we just took like 10, 15 steps back with all that, right?
Right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So in your little thing that you sent us, you said you have quite a few certifications.
Yep.
How much or how little do you feel those certifications have played a role in your business success? Not as far as your training ability, but like as far as business goes.
Business success, probably 5%. Yeah, not very much. 5% may be generous. So, and I think you guys probably get the same answer a lot with that, right? So I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, and you guys know, right? But I mean, I've learned more taking that late on my own, right? Back in 2015 when I did that. In the first 3 months of that process there, just of that oh shit moment, right? Than I ever am going to learn from a certification or something that I went through related to fitness or nutrition or any of that.
Yeah,
and that's not a knock on the certs, right? I mean, obviously they're there for a reason, right? And there's a lot that I learned from that, and it's stuff that, it's a lot of this stuff. I mean, there's still stuff in times where I'm doing certain programming things or certain stuff in nutrition where I'll always have that stuff as a reference, right? But in terms of business, like you asked, I mean, it's a very, very, very small amount.
Yeah, because we still get coaches sometimes that are trying to get that next cert, but they really need to go get that next client,
right?
Instead. And again, I'm not against learning. It's a constant learning game for all of us, and we should be getting better all the time. But the certs don't solve business. I haven't had anybody ask for any of my qualifications for 15 years now.
Right.
Yeah. No, same as me. And I think, and I think what I tell people, and I told John this a little bit. So I do a little business coaching as well. It's a very small arm of my business. But what I'm always telling people, especially younger trainers that will reach out as well, I mean, you're going to learn a lot more by surrounding yourself with the right people, right? And getting into Facebook groups and groups of just other people that are trying to do what you're doing. You're going to learn a lot more from that than just sitting there and trying to stack the certs on.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. So you've been in this for a long time. Other than John and I, because we're really awesome, who do you look up to in the fitness industry, and who do you go to, whether you know them or not personally, but who do you look for as a resource for training, for business, really anything to do with all the things that we do day in and day out?
Yeah, so I mean, fortunately, I have been doing this a long time. And I've been able to meet a lot of people through Lifetime and through Equinox who I've just stayed in touch with, right? And there's a lot of people that I used to work with very closely that are doing some really cool stuff right now. And I have, fortunately, probably 5 to 10 people that I call on often, to where it's like, hey, let's pick up the phone, or let's go get coffee, and let's bounce some ideas off each other, right? So there's a lot of I have a lot of that, which I think when you work for yourself and you start your own business, and obviously I have a little team around me right now, but I mean, the days can be lonely sometimes, right? You kind of sit there and you can spin the wheels in your head over and over and over nonstop, right? And if you don't have that sounding board, sometimes it's hard to get that clear picture of what you need to do, right? And it kind of makes sense of it. So for me, that's probably the biggest source that I have right now. I mean, obviously there's, like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, right? Having, I'm in some different groups on Facebook, and there's some accounts that I follow on Instagram that, I like to just go to just to kind of see some different stuff that people are doing, right? I don't think that's ever a bad thing. But I always like to kind of lean on the people that I know have gone through some of the stuff that I've gone through and are doing some stuff that I'm trying to do as well, and be able to have that sounding board to bounce ideas off of, and have those tough conversations, and have somebody tell me the stuff that I know I probably need to hear but maybe don't want to hear, type stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Isn't it crazy how powerful proximity is? And you don't understand it till you experience it. I remember for the longest time when I was working for the big box gyms, like you go in as like, I really want to help people. Then you leave like, fuck everybody, right? Because they run your ass dry. And you look up and you don't even recognize who you are. At least that was my experience. But once I started getting around the right people, and that's actually how I met Mark, was a similar group called Apex. My life has just gotten tremendously easier over the last couple of years because I don't have to know everything, because I know the source of where I need to go. So I think that's a really great point to hit on. And so what would be some of your advice for someone that is looking for that type of group, but maybe they're not ready to drop 15, 20 grand for like a super mastermind or something like that?
Yeah, no, I think it's just a matter of, I think you need to start with yourself, right? You need to figure out just who you are, like you said, right? I mean, I kind of had a little bit of that, right? Because you attach yourself to a certain thing you think you are, right? And then you remove yourself, and it's like, oh shit, there's a lot of stuff that you feel this relief come off when you leave that situation. You're like, man, I didn't even realize I was that person. You know what I mean? So I think the first step is just figure out who you are, right? And make sure you know where you want to go, right? Because if you don't know where you want to go, it doesn't really matter who you're surrounding yourself with, because it's not going to help you. So and I think it's, don't be afraid to ask questions. I mean, so many people that I thought at one point were untouchable, or people that I thought were doing such phenomenal things and were just kind of at that spot where they would never give me the time of day to chat, right? Are people that I've become the closest with, and come to me every so often with questions and advice and whatever, right? So I think it's, be willing to ask the questions, right? And put yourself in those situations to where, find those people on social media or in your network that are doing what you think you want to do, right? And don't be afraid to make a move on it.
Dude, I love Mark. You speaking your love language. I see you down there.
I know. but here's the thing, and John and I see this very, very often in our circle, is when other people recognize people doing the work, they will always show up. So, when you talk about people seeming like they're way up here, like they're outside of your realm or whatever, but if you're putting in the work, if you're being consistent, if you're showing up in the way that you want to show up in a powerful manner, like, people recognize that. So it really gives you permission to reach out to those people that seem untouchable or whatever. We make up these stories in our head because, there's people that take advantage of that. We all know that. But when you got a track record and you have consistency over the years, like, we want to help people. Like, it's in our, especially in the coaching realm, like, we've spent a career helping other human beings get better. So when we recognize that, it makes it so much easier to say yes to someone. And you're right. It's like, sometimes you just got to ask. I mean, the answer is always no if you don't ask anyway, so might as well fucking ask.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right. You're right. And I think it's, and you, like you said too, I think a lot of that, sometimes you build that narrative up in your head, right? Where you put certain people on certain levels where a lot of times the levels don't exist, right? It's just all top, you know what I mean? So, and like you said, when you do the work and you realize everybody's doing the work to get to that level, right? Then the barriers start to come down, and that's when the growth happens, you know?
And there's so few people when you keep climbing.
Dude,
So
Yeah.
so those at the top are always looking for others. They're like, any for hello.
yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Champions recognize other champions, and one of my favorite TV shows is the show The Voice. Do y'all ever watch that show, The Voice, where they do like they hit the chair, they turn around, then they got to pitch them? Man, that's how I see this whole sales game going moving forward with coaches. Like, if you can really get tuned into who you are and who you're looking for, and you hear that sweet melody, it's slam the button, turn around and go, hey, I want to work with you, right? Versus just trying to turn your chair around for anyone who's singing, even though the voice is all fucked up. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm gonna pass on this one. You're not ready yet. I'm gonna hold out.
That is a stellar analogy, John. That is stellar.
That's how I look at sales, man. I'm just waiting to hear a great tune.
So, with things still being weird and there's still restrictions in different places, and who the hell knows if anybody's enforcing it, but do you see, or what do you see as the trends moving forward over the next couple of years in the fitness industry?
Yeah, I think, for me personally, I think in-person trainings has been the strongest it's been for me in a long time. I think a lot of people, I do a lot of hybrid training anyway, so I mesh the online and the in-person, so I think that helps. But I think a lot of people are starting to gravitate back towards that in-person connection, right? So and this is just personal opinion on my end, but I think in-person is going to have a nice resurgence here. I'm seeing it already in the people I'm having conversations with. I think a lot of people are missing that connection of not being stuck behind a screen or doing a virtual platform or whatever. But that being said, I don't think that stuff's going anywhere. I think the only thing COVID did was it just kind of expedited the timeline a little bit, right? That stuff was always there. That stuff was always coming. I think now it's just at everybody's fingertips, to where it probably just sped that up maybe 5-10 years, So personally, I think the next few years are going to be interesting just to see, because I still don't think big box is having that full resurgence yet, right? I think a lot of people are still kind of hesitant to get back in and surround themselves with the masses, especially in certain parts of the country where, it's starting to get a little colder, and you start to get some of that cold season anyway, right? So I think people are still kind of a little gun shy in that world, right? But I think in person, just in general, and maybe even like the studios and small group are gonna have a big bounce back if they're not already seeing that.
I like it. Yeah, the big box gyms are, there's a lot of germs and people are weird, and you got naked old men walking down hallways with smoothies. So
right, you never know what you're gonna get.
It could be a tough sale.
Yeah.
Well, I think people want the experience and the results at the end of the day. And I think a lot of people are tired of, well, I get this gym membership every year. I fiddle around, I do a few classes, and then I don't show up, and I get drafted for next 6 months till I realize that I haven't been to the gym in 6 months. And they repeat this cycle over and over. And then, like you said, they're spending all day behind the computer screen. It's like, look, I need to get some movement, and I want to go do it with an environment that I'm having fun.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, and just from personal experience, and just because I have a lot of friends in the industry still that still work for the bigger boxes. And I think the way a lot of those places handled it too, I don't think sat well with a lot of people, right? Especially during COVID times, right? For employees and members as well, right? So I think there's still a lot of people that may never go back as far as to that big box, right? And they may start looking for smaller solutions, or how can I mesh the virtual with the in-person, or they have the Peloton at home and they like the Peloton but they still miss that connection, right? So I think there's just going to be a lot of that kind of middle ground where people are trying to plug and play and do a little bit of both before they're rushing to get back into to the masses of the big box.
Yeah,
I dig it. All right, sir, so as we start to wrap this up, I got a few fun questions for you.
All right, let's do it.
Nice and easy, no pressure.
That sounds dangerous.
What is your favorite holiday?
Favorite holiday is Christmas.
Yeah, it's your time of the year coming up.
I think it's, it's good. I mean, I got 2 little boys now, so I think as they get older, right, it's gonna get better, right? So I think it's just always, things kind of slow down a little bit. You get more time with the family. Everybody just seems like to kind of pump the brakes just a hair, right? I just like the vibe around that time of the year.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm a huge fan of Arbor Day, by the way.
There you go.
No, I'm not. So as a fitness professional, what's the most weight you've ever lifted?
Most weight, I had a 600-pound deadlift.
Ooh.
Oh shit.
That's the most I've ever lifted. Yeah, back in college, senior year of college.
What'd you weigh at the time?
225, 230.
So
Wow.
damn near 3 times. Yeah, that's solid.
Yeah. Never touched that high again, but did it once, and that's all that matters. So
Well, I got a fun episode where I talk about how I shit myself in my highest lift. So I'll send you that when we're done.
send that along, man. That sounds right up there with the Michael Irving. Let's go.
It is. It is. It was 465 too. So now I feel even less great about it.
There's a lot of those stories out there, man. That happens a lot.
Oh, it happened.
I love the ones where you see the guys deadlifting and start throwing up like mid lift, but they just keep lifting as it's like projectile vomiting out. Like that's impressive. That's commitment right there.
That is commitment if anything else.
Yeah.
Full commitment. All right, last question, sir. If you could have a billboard with a message on it for everyone to see, what would the message on the billboard be?
Oh, that's a good one. Believe in yourself. I think that's first and foremost, right? I mean, I think whether you're a fitness pro listening to this, or you're someone who's out there training or trying to improve your fitness, right? I mean, I think so many people just lack that belief in themselves to get started or to, take that next step or whatever, right? Or they start to see some success and they start to doubt themselves again, right? So I think believe in yourself is that would be my billboard.
Yeah.
I dig it. That's perfect, man.
Right.
Guys, if you're listening to this, and girls, I'm not assigning genders, by the way. They, him, she, it, attack helicopter. If you are listening to this, listen, success leaves clues. Jason's been in this game for 15 years, and you definitely dropped a lot of knowledge and wisdom and, things that I think, John, you kind of said it before, like we take for granted because we've been doing this for so long. But, there's new coaches out there all the time who need this type of knowledge and conversation. So, if you're listening to this, I hope you're taking notes. I hope you're honing in on some of these things that we keep hearing, not only from Jason, but from some of our other guests. We had Rance on recently. He's been in the game for like 20 something years. Jerry's been doing this for a long time. So, we're trying to get people on here that have that experience so you can learn from us and maybe streamline your process a little bit and not have to make the same dumbass mistakes that a lot of us made over the years. So, Jason, any parting words, sir? Let us know where people can find you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been fun. You can find me on Instagram. So Jason Williams PT is the Instagram handle. CustomFitColorado.com is the website for the in-person and the online services. Other than that, I'm on Facebook as well. So you can find me on any of those 3. And yeah, thanks again for having me on. It's been fun, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, it's been cool as shit to watch you grow over the last couple of years, even though I thought it was a year. It's been 3 years.
I appreciate that, man. I only know with the timeline because I remember talking to you right before. So my oldest is going to be 3 in December, and he wasn't.
I remember.
So
you got Rugrats come out between now and then.
It's been a bit, man. It's been a bit. So
yeah,
no, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So for y'all listening, once again, don't forget to be like Jason. And go out there and get what you're worth, baby. Yeah. Damn good episode.
Damn good.